Bertie wrote in your column on Sunday about this game, obviously, and sensed a real nervousness off you. As I did last time we spoke about it, this is an absolutely monstrous occasion. It's most likely going to be a championship decider, although you'd have to acknowledge England is still in that mix. What are your thoughts a few days out? Like, how kind of worried are you? How nervous are you? Or how
Yeah,
excited are you for this?
I think. Look, I think Ireland obviously have had elements of the three games where we've been really good and we've been in tough periods and we haven't panicked, etc. But I would say, having looked at the six matches again, the French games and the Irish games, I think France have been more impressive, to be honest. They've been more impressive, and I know they had a poor performance against England, but yet they created so much against England that you would fear they could create again, because they did it against Wales and did it against Italy. So their attack is outrageously good. I think if they beat England, we're talking about it as probably being the most impressive first three rounds for a long time from any team with the ball in hand. Secondly, their lineout's been really good. So 97% lineout. Okay, they've been throwing the ball to the front a lot, but they've been winning regular ball, 13% on opposition ball, which is the best stats. In Ireland are sixth on our own ball, 88%, and sixth on opposition ball, 4%. So, if form is to pay out, France will win a couple of our lineouts and they'll be pretty strong on their own, because our defensive line isn't forming that well, and our own is creaking at key times. Their discipline has been good, so they're giving away fewer penalties than anybody else. And interesting enough, so last year, I don't want to be stats, just throw some stats as you may talk about it. But last year we were the top team in terms of carries per game, 237 per game, and France were fourth, 117 per game. And that tied into the whole fact they didn't really want the ball for long. They wanted to play in bursts. And now they're the second highest and we're the fourth. So we're obviously playing less, we're kicking more. I think we're up 40% of our kicks. So why I'm concerned is not that I don't think that's the right model for us or anything like that. It's just it's quite new to us. And France, in fairness to them, are probably playing a game, or they are playing a game that's more in sync with Bordeaux and Toulouse, which is where a lot of their players come from. And they also, the stats don't tell you how it looks in the field, but like they have they don't have a discernible shape. You play against Scotland, you play against England, you play against Italy, you know what you're going to face and you can prepare for that. Whereas if you look at a lot of their tries or their line breaks, they they're not really they're not pictures that you see regularly, whatever. And they can be very narrow at times, but they go up the middle, they go through you, and then they go to width very quickly, and they offload, and they have an unbelievable X factor. So it's going to take an 80-minute defensive performance to not hemorrhage points. Do I think Ireland can win? Absolutely, Ireland can win the game, but it from what I can see and what I've looked at and the stats, I would say it's at best 51-49 to Ireland. You know what I mean? Like it's a 50-50 game for me. And now the pressure on them, they can't afford not to win because of the loss against England. Yeah, I have a massive respect for this French team, and I think realistically they've underachieved over the last 6 years in terms of trophies. And I think maybe the benefit of winning in European cups, etc. They may now want to do that on an international stage, and yeah, maybe the time is right for them. I don't know. It's not that I don't rate Ireland. I just think France are looking very strong.
51-49 is about the way the bookmakers see it, I think. Like Ireland are 1 point favorites.
Okay.
So yeah, you're spot on, at least in terms of them having a similar expectation. And or I suppose like going back to the Italy France game, the jarringly impressive element to that French performance was just that you couldn't imagine Ireland doing that to Italy or really any team at that level. Now, to be fair, you couldn't imagine New Zealand doing that to Italy. They literally had the opportunity to do it in November and couldn't. That's where France probably separate themselves a little bit. Is like if they are on and if the circumstances are right, they're probably unparalleled in their ability to attack, to score from anywhere, and that's where I guess like this is Ireland's greatest challenge in recent times is trying to put a lid on that. And I know you've made the point previously that like they were able to actually stymie Antoine Dupont a couple of times, or a little bit in 2023, for example. How manageable do you think it is, though, to keep tabs on this French attack in 2025 based on what we've seen of them?
Well, Ireland won't give them some of the opportunities that Italy did. That's an obvious one, but they do have scoring power against great defenses, and they've added a lot more since, say, the meeting last year in Marseille, which was there was a red card thrown in there, wasn't there, 2024? Yeah, there was, for Willemse. So it was a bit more comprehensive because of that, but it was still quite a comprehensive win. But if you think about who was missing for France that day, Dupont wasn't there, Ntamak wasn't there, Louis Bilbierre came off the bench, as far as I recall, and it wasn't quite the force he is now. There's a different second row with Flamont, and his ability to punch, and Miafu could be back in the squad in the 23 at least. Sounds like they may go for their 7-1 bench again and have that sheer power to call on the second half. I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year. And yet Ireland will look back to 2023 and think they did a brilliant job controlling some of those guys anyway, in particular Dupont. And yet he still had line breaks when he picked up offloads off teammates who just punched a little bit of space around the ruck, and away he went, and he did some amazing things in that game. Looking back on his tackle on Mac Hansen, even where he prevents him from scoring in the right corner, was phenomenal. So yeah, I think they're going to be better. There's no excuse for them not to really peak for this game. France, they owe Ireland one based on those two games. They are right in the hunt for the title. They will feel they weren't 10 out of 10 last time they came to Dublin, and certainly weren't that last year, and that should focus their minds. And that's why I think it's going to be an absolutely titanic clash, because we know Ireland, in fairness, are generally good at getting to the pitch of these games, these massive title defining games. They usually pitch up, so it excites me so much. I do find it deeply difficult to have any sense of which way it's going to go, but I can't wait to see how it unfolds. And I think there's going to be incredible highs and lows for both teams within the space of 80.
Murray, do you think Ireland are as good as we were in 2023?
No, I don't. I don't. But that was almost a peak year for this team, I think. And even though it didn't go their way in the World Cup quarterfinal, I look back at some of those performances, and the sheer crispness to it was delightful. I probably favor that team because it was so attractive to watch as well, and their phase play attack, it was the perfect time for that. They had so much success with it, and it was so pleasing to watch. But loads of what they did well back then still rings true, and even some of the things we're focusing more on now were still big parts of their game. They kicked well in that match. They struck really well off set piece. You think of the Hugo Keenan try off Finlay Beelam's inside pass, and they were physically really robust in that game. So they haven't changed. There's a few personnel changes with Sam Prendergast steering the ship at 10, which is a big one, but lots of familiar faces as well. They're probably not quite at that level, but they're not far off it, I don't think.
Well, taking that into consideration, Birch, how do you stack up this French team versus the 2023 team that was coming into that Ireland game? And I remember our conversations at that time. I certainly fancied France in that game. Like, it was another 50-50 going into it. Are France better now than they were then?
They're very different. I think, remember Galtier after that game speaking about how they played into Ireland's hands, and they kind of got caught in this game of high tempo, all out attack, and that wasn't how France were actually set up at the time. France were very, very disciplined, and played in bursts, as I said. I think now they're a little bit freer. I think Galtier post World Cup. So if you remember, he got killed in after the World Cup for overplaying against South Africa, and they've actually kind of then obviously had a hangover in 2024 in the Six Nations. Dupont came back good in November, and I think they've actually freed up a little bit. I think they're more used to playing now. They still kick a lot. They kick the same amount as us, but they make more line breaks than us, and then they get more passes and etc. because they're in better positions on the front foot. But I think they're better than they were. I think they're possibly better than they were in 2023. Yeah, I think they're shaping up to be better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win. But I think they're more dangerous. I think Mofana is a better player. Has really developed. I think Ntamak and his understanding of Dupont. So down in Bordeaux on Thursday, like the French public feel that Galtier is anti-Bordeaux, right? And that he's basically blamed Jalibert for the Toulouse or for the England loss. And I went back and I looked at that game again. I actually think Jalibert had a decent game. The problem is potentially that Jalibert doesn't understand his role in that team with Dupont is actually just to let Dupont play and to then fill in the gaps. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not how Jalibert plays with Luku. Luku's obviously outstanding, but the game is played through Jalibert. And I think that's why France are better with Ramos or Intermac at 10, because they understand that this team's built around Antoine. And if you look at most of their good attacking moments, they're around him and everyone reacting off him. And I think he's no, is he better than he was in 2023? He's certainly no less impressive. You know what I mean? He's still at the peak of his powers, I think. And I think a lot of those other players, Barry is a weakness in the air. And I'd be shocked if Ireland don't go after him there. I think Penno comes back in. I think Boudinot is a phenomenal addition to the team. Yeah, I think they're better. I think they're slightly better. I think they're slightly better. Which is strange because I think the coaching staff aren't as good. You know, the French Federation couldn't keep paying the wages to be competitive with the top 14. After the World Cup, a lot of those good coaches went back. But I think Galtier is still there. Edwards is still there. Like, it's weird. They don't even defend like a Sean Edwards team anymore. Like, really, you know what I mean? But yet their discipline is unbelievably good. So if Sean Edwards has given him anything, it's actually he's improved their discipline. Which I know they have a referee involved as well now. But like, yeah, their set piece is good. There's a lot to like about them, to be honest. And I know we're in pole position. We're at home. We're ahead of them. We're unbeaten. We're going for Grand Slam. But when I look back at that England game again, okay, they were wasteful, but they still had England in all kinds of shit situations, you know.
They should have won that game
Yeah.
by 15 or 20 points
Yeah.
if we're honest about it, but they didn't. And like, that may be a symptom of something as well. Like, it can't be just discounted how many unforced errors or handling errors or stupid things they did in that game as well, under a little bit of pressure. We are under.
Just would you say there's a step up? Are Ireland and France significantly better than England? Are France significantly better than England, Scotland, and Wales?
Are France significantly better than England, Scotland, and Wales? Yes.
Yeah. So we have to find another 10 or 15% this week. I know that we can, but we have to find out what we did again in Edinburgh in Murrayfield, or we did it at home to England, or away to Wales isn't enough. I don't think.
No. Mer?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. There's been big gaps in Ireland's performances, and they know that better than anyone. Absolutely right there, Birch. They got to go to a peak in this competition. They always feel like they've planned it right to get that, and that the fallow weeks have probably helped them be in the right place for this one. They'll obviously hope to have had really good injury news, and that Doris and Conan and Keller are all good to go and ready to rock. And if that's the case, like, both squads will be very much close to full strength. So that makes it even spicier, even juicier. So yeah, bring it on. It's going to be one of those things where I think next Monday we're going to be talking about a big scrum penalty or a big breakdown turnover moment that separates two really good teams.
But you note that France don't really defend like a Sean Edwards team anymore. Is there a case we made that they're slightly worse defensively, or that there are more opportunities out there against them than there were in 2023? I think we can discount 2024. But I guess I'm just thinking of, even in a game where Italy were really appalling for most of it, the purchase they got through the French midfield, for example, we don't know if it's going to be the same midfield, but just point being, maybe there are a few more avenues through which you can actually attack this French team.
Yeah, they don't keep up the same mistakes by being kamikaze on the edge, but they've been actually porous in the middle. And I'm sure Ireland have identified some opportunities there. Yeah, I don't see them as being as hard to break down, blitz or no blitz, as they were. But the other side of it, yeah, they're able to score easier, I think. So yeah, you have to score. I think Ireland have to score 25 points to win in my mind.
Murr, I know you'll be chatting about it a little bit later in the week again. Bert, I'll ask you for a prediction. I know it's a few days out. You're free to change your mind in the coming days. Where are you at the moment?
Ireland 25, France 24.
51-49.
Yeah.
Magic.